Hello, today my name is Mike Anderson and I'm going to show you how to build an oxalic acid heat gun. And it's for bees, and you put your stuff in here, let it get hot, flip it over into that, and the fog comes out of that. So that's my task today, is to illustrate how to and instruct you on how to make this. Thank you. Okay, first of all, I'm going to show you all the components that's inside of this. Now, for instructional purposes, I'm going to use this just regular house volt receptacle as a switch, but however, this is what you would actually be using as an on-off switch. Also in this, we have a little inline fuse you snip right here, and you just put it inside this line right here, right after you come off the on-off switch. And this system uses about, this heater is 380 watts at 120 volt, 110 volt. So that's about, it's pulling about 3 amps. So I would put a 10 amp fuse in that just to be on the safe side. And here we have our little solid state relay. And these are only like $3. You can get them on the internet. And this one here is a 40 amp, but 25 amp would be satisfactory. And it's numbered on here, and I got it down here on this board the way it is. So you can follow this board out right here, and it'll just guide you right through it. Now this here is your digital temperature controller. And if you'll notice on the sides here, it shows you how to wire this up. And 1 and 2, 1 will be your hot wire, 2 will be your negative. Your SSR, number 3 and 4, 4 will go to 5, and 3 will go to 4 on this particular digital controller. They're different digital controllers, but they all are very similar in their layouts here. And on this one here, your thermal coupling, which is here, your thermal coupling will go on 9 and 10, being that your red is hot, it'll go on 10, and your 9 is negative, and that'll go on 9 there. Your blue is negative, it'll go on 9. Okay, and as I mentioned, you got a band heater. And what I found with these band heaters is that you got to have some kind of a mass to control the heat, to store some heat. And so I found these flush bushings, and they are designed to go into these couplings, these fittings here. And so that's what I found that will make this thing work. And what I did was I put this, I slide this one inside of it, and then I just set this one here. I watched Jason Chrisman's YouTube video on building one of these, and I also got good information from Johnny's Reloader Bench, My Pen PID. And that's what I used on here, was a My Pen. This is a universal. I wouldn't recommend this because it's just so big. And this is just to show that you can use anything that you have around. You don't have to go buy stuff. I mean, like this Cane's coffee can, it worked ideal for this. The only bad thing about it was the metal's so thin that I cut myself once or twice cutting this out. And but other than that, it works good. And I've used it probably 3 or 4 times on my bees so far. And I did find out that I first experimented and I tried using one like this, and it was way too long. And I found that when the oxalic acid, you dumped it in there, by the time it got out to the end, this had cooled and it was crystallizing and plugging up out here. And so I thought, okay, well then I'll go to a bigger tube, which will still fit in my bees holes there. and shorter. So I did that, and that helped. But I'm thinking about maybe insulating this somehow to keep it warmer, to keep it from cooling so much from here to here. But it fogs out good and it works good for the bees, but just little improvements. But this little feed here, it's very important to have that because it keeps it from falling over. And but you don't have to have this type of situation here. I got another one here that we're going to make with this, and I thought this would work good. And it's just simple things that you can buy at the hardware store and lumber yards and make it at home. And I think just about anybody could probably build this. So anyway, we'll start out with the beginning of it with the components, and this is just a normal household switch that I'm using as an example. But in your deal here, I made this. This is my box, which is going to be going onto this right here, and actually like that, and a little switch hose right there. But it don't have to have all that fancy bends and stuff in it, you know. It can be just like that. And example here, you could take like a regular old door handle pull and mount it right there and use that as your stabilizer. So that would work real well. And you don't have to have all this stuff. You can just have just anything, a wooden handle or something on here, a dowel pin or anything stuck in there as a handle. The only thing that would be important would be to be sure and have something to clamp this off of, so when you pull on this, it's not going to pull from in here. You got to have it to where it's clamped off. Somewhere on it you have to mount a clamp or something on it. But that wouldn't be any problem. Okay, so we got our toggle switch, and which is here, and that would be here. And then you got this is a SSR relay, which is a solid state relay, and it's got 4 terminals on it, and they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. And now this here, you need to have a piece of metal mounted to this, and I found that just a regular little old ceiling light deal works real well for that. So I would take this off, take that little screw out and take it off, and use this one here, and you can mount that on there, and then you already have a screw hole here for your ground, because you need to mount your ground on this metal deal here. So that is an ideal answer for mounting your deal. And then all you got to do is, on this, I've got 2 holes mounted here, to where I'll just mount that in there like that on the side, and that'll work real good. Okay, so we've talked about our solid state relay, and what a relay does is you'll have your main voltage coming off of your plug, going into number 2, and then you'll also need to power up this thing here. So you got to run another wire from number 2 going over to number 1 to power your controller. And then your 3 and 4 are your control voltages, or your control sensors. And what they do is they come off of 4 and 5 down here and tie in here. So whenever your band heater, it's asking for heat, what this is going to do is it's going to energize this circuit down here, your control circuit, which will close the circuit from 1 to 2 to run power from here to around here over to your band heater. So that's what this is for. And then your digital controller. Now this one here, I just got these off the internet. I don't even know what it is. It's a Rec C100 by Berm. But like this thing here is $3. I paid probably $3 or $4 for that. $1.50 for that. And I was amazed how cheap these things are. Like this here's 10 or 12 bucks, and you buy 2 of these, you know, you get 2 of them. And then this one here, I got this and the thermal coupling, and I got these for like 20 bucks or something. But it's all relatively cheap stuff that goes into this thing. These here, this here is what I found that makes everything work on this thing. And they've got mass. This here is 1 1/4 inch by 3/4 flush bushing, F-L-U-S-H, flush bushing. And this one here, it will fit through a 1-inch coupling. And this is a 1 by 1/2. And what these are reducers in plumbing and stuff, and they just slide them in here, solder them together, and then they reduce the diameter of your next line down to a 1/2 inch from a 1 inch. So, but what I was looking for was weight. I wanted something that would absorb that heat and keep it to where when I needed it, it would transfer. If you didn't have these, when that thing flashed off, you'd lose your heat so fast that it wouldn't work for you. So you need some mass. So that's why I got these here. And this one here is 1 1/4 inch, and these are 35 millimeter by 35 millimeter, 380 watts, 110 volt. And but this one, 1 1/4 inch, will fit right in there. And then I just set this one on top. And now your thermocoupling. Now this thermocoupling right here that I done on here was a metric thermocoupling that I got. So when I got these, I was surprised to find out that this one's a 1/4 20. So be sure and be aware of that, because you're going to have to tap a hole. You're going to have to drill. It took like, I don't remember the size of the drill bit, but it was a 1/4 20 tap. But, and then that will thread right in here, and it will set right on top of that like that. So, anyway. So now we've gotten through down on the controller here. We've got the voltage taking care of this area. You got a thermal coupling that comes over here and goes into 9 and 10. And be sure you have the red will go on the positive. And it shows right here on your deal, it'll have a little TC in there, and it'll have a plus and a minus. And on this side, it's got SSR, and it's got a plus and a minus on it. So they identify these pretty well. So, and I've got it here also on my board, kind of like how they got it on there, TC and SSR. So they identify where you need to put your stuff on here. So anyway, we're going to go through here, and we're going to wire this up and go from there. So I've got me a plug, and be sure and have your plug unhooked from the wall. Do not. That's the very last thing you'll do when you're firing this thing up, is plug that thing into the wall. So I'm going to, and I pull this wire back. Oh, another thing I wanted to tell you, that was you need to get you, I got this at Harbor Freight, and it was like for, I don't know, cheap, $7 or $8 or something, $10. But it was terminals, and what's important is these different widths of these spades, because like in your controller here, it's a very narrow width. So you got to have that narrow one, because a wider one will not fit in there. So it's important to have those different widths of spades. So, and it's one of these is handy to have. So it's very cheap. So anyway, so now we'll go through here, And I'll start by wiring up. We'll start at the beginning here, and here's your ground. That's a green wire. And you got a black wire and you got a white wire. Your white wire is going to be your neutral. Your black wire is going to be your hot one. So we're going to hook this hot to this switch. Somehow. Like that. And then we don't need that in there. Then we're going to run a little wire. I've already cut these wires and put them in. I think that one right there is a good one for that. So we're going to run this one. In there like that. Okay. And then here we'll come off the plug and we'll go to your number 2. And these are numbered here, and I've got to make sure that I got my number on here. Let's see. Yeah, see, here's 1 and 2 right there. Okay. So we got that, and we're going to run this in here like so. This takes a little Phillips. And you got to be careful with this number 2, because you got to put 2 of these things in here. That ain't right. That ain't the right one, I don't believe. I think this one, that's why it didn't fit well. We're going to put that one I bet goes in there. I bet this is the one for this. So we'll put this here. I should have had them identified, I guess. And then we're going to put this in here. And then we've got to put another one in here. Yeah, because this has 2 different spades. One's a small one and one's a larger one. So that small one will fit into that controller there. But you got to be real careful about putting these 2 in here and not getting one to where it's not connected or something. So like that right there, it's trying to come out. In there. And you'll need these deals here to put these on. I use a good pair of Klein strippers and crimper. And I always use this first one right there. It's the easiest one for me. And it makes a good little crimping deal there for these small terminals. So, handy to have. Okay, and then we got that like that, we got that, and so now we can come over here and we can run off of 1 going around to your heater. That will be this one right here. This here doesn't have any polarity, so it don't matter which one of these you put in which. It just you just put one in here. And this little deal here, I thought about cutting this off and redoing it, but I realized that that has little screws there that you can just strip your wire back a little bit, slide it in there, and tighten her down. So that worked out real well. So I'm going to run it on here, and I'm going to put that right there. Tighten this down. Real good. And this one here is your neutral. And what we'll end up having is 3 neutrals, and I'll just take a wire nut like that right there and just wire them all together. So, but that's one of them right there. The wire off of your plug, that'll be another one. And then you'll have one coming off this controller, off of, in this particular case, it's number 2. So now we've got our hot coming off of our switch, going to our controller. We're coming out of the controller, going to the band heater. We've got another wire coming off number 2, which is going to power your controller. All right. And it goes right in number 1. With a little bitty Phillips. Flat. Oh, here it is. So you'll run that in there like that and tighten that down. Then we've got number 4 and 5 on the relay. So this one right here will, and you'll notice again, we've got a small spade here and a larger one there. So we're going to run this down, and we're going to put this in here like so. And there we go. And we're going to connect this to number 4, which is a positive on your solid state relay. And then that should take care of our power coming into our system here to you. Now, and if I was going to put a fuse in here, I would do it right there. That's where I would put my fuse. And now we're going to hook up our thermocoupling. And what I do here is there's like 6 foot of line here. And I've made access good use of this bag that it comes in. I just clipped the corners out, and I've used bread ties and tied that up, coiled it up in there, and I'll probably take some tape and make it real nice and neat like that and tape it all up, because you're going to be bouncing this thing around and it's going to be going, and this is metal, and you don't want a whole bunch of this, too many terminal deals. All it's got to do is touch up against one of those and one of these in there, and or something over here, and it'll shorten it out, or have a chance to short it out. So best deal is to tuck all that stuff up like that right there and put your little wrap of tape around it and hold it, and that'll keep things nice and neat in there. And it won't, because you don't know what all you'll be doing with this thing. You'll be moving it around, flipping it over, whatever, however you're going to do that. So but anyway, that's just a little tidbit information that might make things a little better for you. And we're going to put this into number 10 here. And we're going to tighten that up. And number 9. And we're going to tighten that up. 9 being your blues, your negative, and your reds, your hot. Okay, so now we got it pretty well wired all up. I'm going to tighten this up in here with our hot side. So now we need a negative. Here's a negative here, and this is coming off of your band relay, your heater. So that's going to go to that deal over there. And this one here is number 4. We'll go from here. Let's see, this is going to go, let's move this. We're going to put this right here. This will be your negative side for your controller. It's going to require a negative wire. Okay, there we go. So here's your other negative. So you got 1, 2, and then the one coming off your plug, which is 3. So we'll just wire these together right now, since we got those on there. There we go. Now we got that all wired together. And we like another negative here. So we've got on your control voltage of your solid state relay, we're going to need one here. It's going to go into that, like so. And it's going to go to your number 5 on your controller here. Now your controller might be different, have different terminals and everything, but they all basically are the ones that I've seen so far. It shows that an SSR and a TC and whatever terminal numbers they might be, they're different. Okay, so this is primarily wired up. We've got, we'll follow through with this. We got a hot wire coming into your number 2, and we got a split here going to your controller to power your controller. You got a negative wire coming off your controller going into your neutral. Okay, and then we got power coming out of your relay here, going around over here to your band heater. And then on the control side of your relay, we got power going to here and negative going to here, so that'll close the loop on here and allow that to work. Now you got your thermal coupling over here, it's tied into there. You got your band heater hooked up. We got your thermal coupling in here. We're ready to turn this thing on and see if it works. All we got to do is plug it up. Anytime I have an old piece of equipment or something, I normally cut before I discard it, I always kind of go through stuff and see if there's anything on it I always want, and I always cut the cord off, because if I'm making something, a lot of times I need that cord. So, and I'd recommend, like this one here has a store-bought cord on it from the hardware store or something where I put this on here, but a lot of times I'll just use, just cut off cords off of washing machines or whatever it might be. So I'm going to plug this in. And we'll see what happens. There we go. I'm going to turn this around. Hey, we got power. It's throwing 23 Celsius and 150. So I think this green one down here is what it's set for right now, 150 Celsius. So this 24 is what it currently is. And so it's 70 some odd degrees in here, probably, about 70 probably. So 24 Celsius, I don't know, but I bet it's pretty close. So we're fairly accurate. And so it's already starting to heat up. I can feel heat coming off of that, so it's working. And it's 26, 27, 28. So I feel very comfortable that this thing is all wired together. It's starting to smoke. You can tell that some of the cutting oil that I used when I was tapping my hole is starting to burn. So it's working well. I'm gonna turn this off right here. Okay, and that should have turned off, and it did. So everything's working good on it. So that's that is how it's all wired together. Fairly simple. If you just follow the instruction here, you'll have this fixed up in no time. So what we need to do now is go from taking this and putting it into this and mounting it onto this. And okay, I went ahead and I installed the wire on here. And what I ended up doing was I bent this down so I could run this through here and come up from underneath. So what this is a 16-inch flat bar. I think it's 1.25 inches wide, about 1/8 of an inch thick. And I bent this to about a 30-degree angle up here. So, and then I bent this back a little over a 90. So, no big deal. I think it's like, let's see, 4 or 5 inches. Let's see. So yeah, we're looking about a little over about 4 1/4. There's no real tight dimensions on any of this. So it's, yeah, right at 4 1/4. And then I got up here, it looks like about 8 1/2. And then from there down, there's a couple of inches there, but in total there's 16 inches there. But, and then I just put a couple of holes in here and stuck the box. I could have put it down here, or I could have stuck it further up here. It has a wide area there that you can stick it in. And I use this 3/8 galvanized plumbing pipe and threaded, and I think it's 4 inches long. And then I used a coupling here, 3/8 coupling, just to be able to tie it on. What I did was I drilled a 5/8 hole right here with a drill bit. With this 5/8 drill bit, I drilled a hole in there, and then I had to waller it out just a little bit, and I was able to screw this kind of in there real good to where it would come out on this other side, and I really didn't even need it, so it's tight in there. But then I went ahead and put that on there just so I didn't want it falling out. And then I put the tightness to it. And then this here is just an electrical 3/8. This is a 3/8 pipe, and then this is a reducer from 3/8 to a 1/2 inch. And then I used an electrical clamp on the end of this because these are 1/2 inch clamps. So I had to increase that to 1/2 inch. So that's why I got this bail on here. And then I tightened it up and cinched it down. And this is where I'm going to have my cinch on it, to where if I pull and yank on this cable, it ain't going to try to rip it out of here. And then here's my back here, and I just cut a little hole in there in the bottom of it, and it'll go on there like that, somewhat like that. and my cabling and stuff will go up through there. So anyway, you gotta get all that ready. And then I've mounted my handle on there, which is my stabilizer, because when you're setting this down and stuff, you want it to be good and stable. So any kind of, whatever you want to put here, that's probably a $3 or $4 pull. So I could probably just stuck a little old piece of metal or something there that I could have found in my deal instead of rather using a $4 good handle here. But anyway, now what we're going to do is I'm going to hook this thing up, but I ain't going to take all them wires off. I'm going to just take the ones off that I think I need to take off, and we'll go from there. So I should have my on and off hot wire coming in, and we're going to mount that right here. I'll put that right like that. There we go. And then I should have a hot wire coming from here onto here. That on there like that. Get it good and tight. Okay. And then we'll kind of slide this around in there like so. And this here. Ooh, that's still a little warm from when we turned that on. That's going to have to turn like that. I'll slide that in there like that. There, I got that on there like so. Who knows what's up or down, what's hot and what's cold. I may have to flip it around. Or what's on and off. Okay. And this here, I'm gonna go like that somehow. Oh, I ain't gonna go like that. Like that. There we go. So I'll get some little screws for that. I'm putting lock washers on here. That way, or lock nuts. That way I won't have to worry about them coming off. Let's see. And I may have trouble getting that on there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I don't know if I can get a screwdriver in there without finding me a little bitty one. hold that. It might work. Let's go down here. Oh man, I better put my ground on before I get too carried away with this. Take this back off. I want to mount our ground on there while we got it on here. Let's see. There we go. Now we're ready to do this. I don't have another little washer for that. There we go. That's mounted in there. In there, that's in there. Okay. Now we've got our controller, our relay in there. Here's our controller. We need to hook all these up. That will fit in there like so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run these wires far in here as I can. That's coming off that, so that's got to go to number 1. That's coming off of our voltage. Okay. So this is going to go to number 1. slide that in there like so. And tighten that. Oh. Really put that's good and tight. And then we've got this coming on. This needs to be mounted to this. So we need to decide on if we're going to mount it like that. Let's take this off. And here's our little deal that goes to it. Okay. If we put it like that, need to have it up there enough to where, like that right there. Just like that. So I've got a little Allen wrench here. We're going to tighten this up so it won't go nowhere. There we go. And we got that. Then all we got to do, I'm going to put this right on top like that. Take that bolt and run it right down through the center like that. And hopefully I've got enough. I need a big washer. Just like that right there. And we'll put this on there like so. Yeah, those flush bushings, that is the key to this whole thing. And that's the thing that they were talking about, that you had to have machined. And nobody likes to have to go to a machine shop and get something made. You just you're not familiar with them, and you don't have a clue what they're going to charge you. So people just don't feel comfortable going to a machine shop. So this is the way of getting around that with those bushings. And I think you can get them online. I got mine through Lock Supply, which is just a plumbing outfit for heating, air conditioning, electrical, and plumbing. So, but it's mainly for contractors, but I go in there all the time. So we're gonna okay, just like that. And I probably really need to cinch that up, but for these demonstration, I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, so then what we would do is this here, I would take a little piece of copper tubing. This is 1/4 inch OD copper tubing, and just stick that in there. And what I use is silver solder, and I heat this up, a cutting torch or propane or whatever you got, and I silver solder that around there. And that's a pretty high temp stuff. It's worked good on this, and it hasn't had any problem with that. And this here is I had leakage around here. I didn't solder around here because I wanted to just see how it worked. So I use this high temp silicone gasket maker, and I just put it around there, and you got to let it set overnight, and it sealed it right up. Now this here, I used Teflon tape. I got a little O-ring under here, but you don't really need that. But what I did was I was just trying to find methods of putting that on there and keeping the vapor from escaping out here. And so I tried a little O-ring first and stuck it on there, and that helped. But it was still going through there. So I took some Teflon tape and just kept wrapping it around there, and got it kind of at where it's tapered. And then I took some super glue, and I just put a couple of dabs of super glue on there and smeared it around it and let that dry. And that's worked pretty good. So you can tell it fits down in there snug. And whenever you drop the oxalic acid in there, it doesn't come out here. It mostly comes out here. So, and that works real good. So, and that's what I was saying about this here, because look at all these wires and things you got. All these terminals are all near, everything's close, and then you got metal running around here. So it's always best to, I'd put that in plastic like that right there. And we'll mount this in here. And I know that by following the deal right here, that goes, the hot wire goes to number 10 and the ground wire goes to number 9 on this particular controller. Oh, the metal shavings on there. Okay. And we're hooking the negative onto here, maybe. There. So now we got our thermocoupling hooked up to our controller. This is going to go I sure don't want to be. Let's set this up here. I gotta run that through there. That ain't gonna work like that. That ain't gonna work. I may not have a long enough bolt here. I didn't check this out. Like that. do it like that right there. We'll see if that's... See if that's long enough. Oh, just barely. Just barely. There we go. Alright, that ain't gonna work because my deal slides down over that. This has got to be on the bottom side. That ain't gonna work. Hasn't been like that out, has it? This has got to go like that. I think my bolt just ain't long enough. That's the way I want that. I want this out here like so. I want this down here like this. Just like that. So, I'll put a couple of washers down there, but then my bolt won't be long enough. Okay, on here I've got my 1.5 or 1.25 by 3/4 flush adapter in there, and then on top of it I've got this 1 inch by 1/2 inch flush bushing, or bushings, not adapters. And I got them bolted on, mounted to this, and then the 1 inch I had drilled a hole. Let's see. Here's 1 inch, and I drill a hole in it with a quarter 20 or 6 millimeter, just depends on which type of thermal coupling screw you get in there. And I just mount it near the end down here. There's no specific measurement there, but that's that particular one right there is, it's about 1/4 of an inch centered from the edge. So there's about 1/4 from the center of the hole to the edge of that. So that's, yeah. So it's got about 1/8 of an inch there from the edge there, meet. Okay. But these here are the key. This will prevent you from having to have the parts machined, is this right here. And then you just, now from here, you can just slide this on like that, and you can either solder it or use the gasket material and slide that on there, and have your little deal soldered on like that, and that will fix you up there. It's starting to look like a real McCoy. Okay, so now we've gotten our relay installed, we've got our switch installed. Now the relay wires coming from 3 and 4, we need to install those, the hot and negative relay wires. And where they go is right here to the 3 and 4. They need to go to the control, and that looks like 4 and 5. So right over here, we will mount those right in here to 4 and 5. there, and number 4 is the hot one. So we'll put this one right here, hook it into that. I just didn't have a whole lot of slop here for some reason. Oh, it's that wire right there keeping me from moving very far. So I'm going to install these 2 wires next. Okay. So we're going to loosen these up a little more. And I'm going to put the hot on number 4. Oh man, wait a minute. Oh crap. I forgot. We have got to mount this thing. There's a little mounting deal that goes on here somewhere. What did I do with that? Who knows how that goes on there? Here it is. I'm going to have to take all this stuff off probably. And put that on there somehow. And this thing don't come apart. They have all different kinds, and this is a particular kind. Like that one there had little ear deals you slid on there. That worked out real good. This one here, I'm going to have to take all this back off. And because I don't think I can get that through here with it on here. Well, crud. That means I'm going to have to mount this in here to put these wires on. It sure does. Okay, what I did was this thing here with this little holder, I had to be able to slide that on, so I couldn't have these terminals on there. So I had to take my terminals off, slide that in, put the holder on here, and then mount my wires back onto the controller. So I've got my power coming in to the on-off switch, going over here to number 2, and then I also got number 2, the double wire, going from here going over to number 1 on the controller, and then I got a neutral wire here coming off number 2, and then I've got the wire going from my heater off of number 1 right here, going to my heater, and this is my heater right here, and then here's the other neutral to it. So there's 2 of our neutrals. We like one more somewhere. Oh, there it is. It's the power cord neutral. So now we got all 3 neutrals here. Let me make sure I don't have them messed up in here. So we're going to tie these 3 neutrals off with our wire nut. Twist them in, get them all connected. Okay, now we've got, what have we missing anything? Going to the power here, going up there. I think we got it. So there's 1 and 2, 4 and 5, 9 and 10. So let's see what it looks like from the front side. There we go, right there. And I got it right side up. That's good. Okay. So when I turn it on, I'll know right off if I need to. And I don't have the little on-off deal, but I like on being down. So, I mean off being down. Okay. So we're going to regroup what we've done here. We did our wiring diagram, very simple. You got your power going into 2, going into power of the controller. You got another one going over here from your control on your relay going to your controller. Negative going to the controller. Negative coming out of there going to tie up to your 3 neutral wires. You got your band heater that's going to have a neutral wire that goes up to it. And then you got your hot coming off, going off number 1, going to your band heater. And you got your thermocouplings tying into here. And that's all there is to it. And so that thing ought to, now you can see all the wires and stuff. If I need to tidy up these, normally I would have a lot less wire in here, but since we wanted to blow it out on this board, I didn't cut them down. I'm going to have a lot of wires in here. So, but all this needs to fit in here real nice and neat somehow, and tucked away in here. And this thermal coupling, it needs to go in here. All this wire, I'm just going to slide it all in here like so. And then we've got to get these wires down here in a nice, neat little spot. And there you go, kind of like something like that. So this thing ought to work. And I haven't read the instructions on how to operate this yet. I've got this one down pretty good. The old boy, Johnny's bench loader, he explained this my pin pretty good, and this controller works real good. I had no complaints with it. I got it set for 230 Celsius. It goes up to about 245, 250, and then it'll settle down back down around 230. And and it takes a little bit to heat it up, but maybe 3 minutes, something like that, three or 4 minutes, and then it's hot and ready to go. And once it starts heating it up, boy, it goes pretty quick, and it works real good. I have no complaints with it. I'll be using this thing for many years, and I think it's kind of cute with the Cane's coffee can. So, but they're all different. They're all unique. Each one of them is a little different than another one. Just whatever you decide you want to do with one, whatever shape. But this seems to work pretty good. See, I don't have this one quite at the angle of that one. It's a little bit lower. And then I don't have my deal here because this was hitting my, it's not resting on that, it's resting on this deal. So I thought, I'm going to kick it out a little bit so it rests more on this. And so I think that's going to work well. Well, I'm ready to give it a shot. Let's see what happens. Let's plug this thing up and see what goes on. Let's see if it works. Okay, down is on, so I'm going to have to turn that around. So it's on right now. And it's setting at 24 Celsius. We're going to see how quickly it goes up. And it should get up around 150 Celsius and then settle out. And since I've got cutting oil on that, it ought to probably smoke a little bit. So we'll see. I think that's an indicator light, that the little green light is that it's on. So And once it reaches that 150 Celsius, then that little green light will start flickering, and then it'll start regulating it on and off to keep it at a certain temperature. So it's kicking on up there now. But I've got a back to this, and I've got a top to it over here. This stuff here is just PVC plastic. I bought it by a 4x8 sheet, and I used it for tops of beehives and stuff. It's kind of expensive. I don't remember what I paid for it. It was 50, 60 bucks a sheet or something. But I just use it for everything. Boy, this thing's kicking right on up there now. But with them bushings in there, flash bushings, flush bushings, F-L-U-S-H, flush. If those are the key right there to keeping this to where when you dump that oxalic acid in there, it has enough heat to flash off. But it's moving right on up there. So now normally I would set this up to, and I'll have to figure that out. Figure out how to set it up to 100 or 230. That little thing's 169. Okay, the power went out over here, so it's already regulating. A little light went out, so it ain't heating no more. So it's going to start working its way back down towards that 150. But anyway, there you go. That's how you make one. And you know, if a bee group or whatever, I don't know how much those things cost to buy one, but I know they're pretty expensive, and you can make one that's, you know, if you, most bee hobbyists are pretty handy with stuff, so shouldn't have no problem making that. Just be careful. Do not, with the power cord, be sure and unplug that power cord. Don't have any power going to this when you got this open and you're doing stuff with it. And that is extremely hot right now. So we must have burned off all the oil off of it because it's not smoking. But I can feel the heat off of it. So it's definitely working. So hope this instruction video has been a help, and hope you've able to take this and make your own heat gun, oxalic acid heat gun. Thank you very much. Bye.